All right, cyber traders, good morning and welcome on back here this Wednesday, September 8th, shortly after 9 a.m. Eastern time. And of course, this time, welcome on back for our morning meeting. Great to see all of our students live inside Cyber Group. You got Donald, Leda, Phil, Gene, Frank, got Grant, Michael, and all of our students and trial members live inside the Cyber Group room. And of course, if you're joining us today on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube, welcome on back. So, if you were joining us in the afternoon yesterday, right, less than 24 hours ago, you knew that I would have to start this meeting off here this morning by talking about the BBIG trade. And, hey, this morning it's up another 15+%. But, where we left off with this stock in particular during the afternoon meeting yesterday, I mean, we're only hopeful first off, right? I mean, for the afternoon watch list that I put out, not everything ended up running up as picture perfect as the BBIG trade did. But it's to say that as soon as I was finishing up this meeting, I was like really just trying to find any last second stocks that we've traded in the past, or perhaps any runners that are popping right in the moment. And I said, you know what, let me just jump to BBIG quick. And at the time, it was like actually right here. It was beginning to make a small little push up above 810. I said, well, wait a second, little volume starting to come in here. You see the big volume spike. So again, we're only hopeful. But we say, hey, that's good enough. The stock was only up like 1% on the day. We say, all right, well, you know what? We're familiar with this trade. It seems like it's beginning to perk up. Hey, even if it can give us 50 cents on the trade, 60 cents, really happy with that. Folks, this couldn't have gone any better. Oh my goodness. This stock ended up re-breaking above a resistance off of 825 later on. And then from that point, just off and running she went. That was a weak whistle, but nonetheless, the stock ended up beginning to pop above resistance off of 9, ended up, beginning to build up off its lows, a beautiful uptrend at least from that point, and ran beautifully. One of our students, Brian, who wrote just woo right in the chat board right there, one of our big winners, one of many of our big winners, at least from yesterday afternoon. Personally, I caught a small piece of the action here, which I was very content with. But man, I was in a coaching session with one of our students, Alex, and like right at the time, I was talking to him saying, hey, you want to be a little careful for a false breakout, the first test of a big resistance. That's what I'm talking about here off of 850. So this pop I missed. I said, I'm going to wait, sit on my hands, wait. Well, when it broke under 850 right here, I wanted to wait for one extra little shimmy, one little extra up and it popped up and I was a fraction of a second too late right from 850, and that really frustrated me. But I bring this up because, well, it's not just about me. It's to say, hey, I'm just like anyone else here inside the trading room, anyone else joining us today on social media. You can't get pissed off and you can't get too overwhelmed by missing out on the perfect entry. So I ended up letting this actually go up a lot more. I didn't want to trade in between two major levels. I'm not just going to, put a bandana around my eyes and just throw a dart on the wall and hope it lands. Long story short, this stock ended up beginning to pop up and above $9. I jumped in from 9. I got out at 9.38. I took 38 cents on the trade, which I thought was pretty content. I ended up, practically chasing the stock from the next level ahead. So I was very content, but man, this just kept going. Moved all the way up towards an eventual high of the day at the time, right off of 990. Failed to pop over 10 at the time. But, here in the after hours yesterday, I had this line up at $9.75. That was actually dating back to last week when it ended up breaking an all-time high. Well, this stock just in the after hours yesterday ended up breaking above this line, 975. And once it did, it's easy to say, but man, this thing took off again, right? So, needless to be said, right now, heading into the market open, we're certainly putting this BBIG on our list, and it'll be at the top by the end of it all, right? How could we not? Just the stock that we're very familiar with. It's still well within our price range. It has still incredible liquidity on the order book. The all-time high was back from last week off of 1190. So, it's getting pretty close to that price already here in pre-market. I look forward to it. All right, maybe it could become the next SPRT, right? An SPRT up 8% this morning. We knew that this crazy one would jump back on the gainers side, at least at some point in time. But just long story short, just to see this stock go from like, sub 10 across a 5-day time frame here, broke all-time highs and popped all the way up towards just about 60 here, I think. Yeah. So you never know, right? For right now, we're only hopeful that BBIG continues, but easily enough for that reason alone and the run that we had yesterday, it goes on the list. All right. A stock from yesterday that we also did really well on, not from the afternoon as much, but actually one of our new gold students, Jim, pointing it out right now inside the trading room and pointing out this pop, mind you, here, if anything. But the Clove stock here, shortly after the market opened up yesterday, really took off. It wasn't on the morning watch list. We had no real business with it in pre-market, pretty flat. But hey, it's a stock that we've traded very frequently in the past. A lot of folks call it a meme stock, Reddit stock, perhaps based on like it trading off of trading with AMC and Express, the Wall Street bet stocks. But nonetheless, either way, whatever the reason is as to why the stock pushed up, we were able to call it out early on, at least after the market opened up, and we were able to follow up with it and trade with it for a long while afterwards. Ended up building up this beautiful trend up towards 10, where it failed to break out, initially in the morning. But once it rebroke 10, it took a little bit, but ended up making a really strong push up towards 11. And then obviously now, like one of our students, Jim, had called out just here, it was trending down just before, and we were talking about that, discussing the drop off on Clove. But yeah, not only a big pop, but a big volume spike here too. So I don't know. Is there any news out on Clove here? I'm going to check Benzinga Pro in the meantime. No news headline. The latest, snippet I have from Benzinga Pro is from 6 a.m. and it's not a headline. It just says Clover Health, GameStop, AMC, Tesla, and more stocks buzzing on Reddit's Wall Street Bets channel. Like that's it. That's not like any company specific news. But either way, I mean, hey, we'll come back to this stock at the end of it all. I really wouldn't mind putting this on the main list, really, actually, right now. But we'll see what else we got across the gainers and losers list first, and then we'll come back to this stock. Odds are we'll put this on the main list at the end. Still really tradable. All right, so what we will do though at this point is go from top to bottom. I want to make sure that our students have enough time to prep and chart and line up their levels like we always discuss, at least in the phase 2 course. So, I want to make sure that we have enough time for that. Let's get right to it here across the gainers list. KDMN, I did not put on the pre-market watch list here today, albeit it's the top percent gainer. It was the top percent gainer when I put out the list at 8 a.m. Let me ask you folks, why is this stock not on the pre-market watch list here this morning? If you're in the cyber group room, if you're a student, you should know this right off the top of your head. It's a buyout, right? I'm not even going to post the headline, the snippet, but the news came out that KDMN was bought out. I believe the listed transaction per share price was 950, maybe 935. I'll be honest, I don't really care because it's to say that buyouts don't move. Once the news comes out, you happen to see a very, flat stock like you're seeing here. Granted, is it actually flat? Well, right now it is. Maybe earlier in the morning it was slowly dropping, and with it shortable, is it possible to have shorted it? Maybe. Listen, I'm not even looking at this stock right now. It's not worth our time. I'm just being very blunt, but also truthful with this, folks. If you want to go against this advice and want to watch the grass grow all morning, be my guest. That's it. All right. Now, this other one here, too, GANX. I don't know what's going on with this stock news wise. Obviously, made a huge pop up, but it's since just dropped back. It's not shortable. We can't short this once the market opens up. At least I don't believe I can get shares from TradeStation. But, hey, at least right now, the liquidity has filled in a little bit more on this trade. It was really thin at 8 a.m. And that's the reason why I didn't put that stock on the pre-market watch list also. For right now, at least, hey, we'll look to see. Hopefully, the stock can make a bounce shortly after the market opens, given how volatile it is so far. I don't mind putting this on the main list here, at least so far here. All right, so keep it going. ARQQ, spotty chart. Obviously, BBIG is on our list already. I'll skip over that at this point. AEI stock that was on the pre-market watch list, rightfully so. It was pushing up pretty early on after 7 a.m. Eastern, but unfortunately after 7:30 pulled back and hasn't done much since. So hey, we're hopeful that this stock can make a new run back up. We're hopeful that this stock can actually continue to fill the gap on the daily chart. So I don't mind putting this on the list. If it ends up dudding out, going the other way, then hey, we'll recognize that early on after the open at least. And I'd probably say the same to be said with this ADMA. Again, another stock that news came out on, popped up early on in pre-market. It's done jack since. It's really done nothing. But if I'm looking to trade a stock, I'm looking to trade a stock that I'm not always trying to trade stocks that are $1 to $2, but the cheaper the stock, the more shares I could trade. And at least if it has really good liquidity on the order book, it makes me feel more comfortable doing that. So, kind of in the same line of thinking as AEI, put the ADMA on the watch list here. If it ends up going the other way, then we're not going to really follow up with it as much, I should say. CLEU, this one already looks like it's done. Unfortunately, this one popped up after 8 a.m., but made such a sharp drop. And you could perhaps say the same with this, as I'd said on the last two, but I'd rather focus on something that has better direction at this point, at least. Right now, this IFRX, it was on the pre-market list. It was a lot more active early on, looks a lot more spotty right now, points of inactivity. All right. This is why my stock caught my interest early on, at least. It looks kind of spotty as well and moving sideways, but this stock has been a former runner for us in the past. I forgot exactly when. Just check the big volume spike days here dating back to October of 2020. Stock pop for us back then from like 5 up to, practically 850, at least back then, it seems like 820. And then over time, looks like it made another mini run back up here, but I don't think we really traded it as much back then. At least for right now, this why my stock could be on our side list. Maybe come back to this at the very end. Clove, at least at this point, seems to be a given that will make the main list. We'll see what else we got though. Otherwise, on the gainers side, then we'll hop over to the losers. And if there's anything else that's not up as much, on the gainers or losers side here, at least that's moving, then you folks call it out. All right, SPRT, we briefly talked about, so I guess pushing up right now. It's more of a level 5 stock. So if you made money on this stock over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, you know who you are, right? If you are not one of those that made money on this trade last week, 2 weeks ago, then I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't want you trading this stock. I'd rather you follow BBIG. I'd rather you follow Clove. At least at this point, I think we'll throw Clove on the main list. SPRT, I'll slip on there also more for our level 4 to 5 traders. Again, you know who you are. If you're a newer student, don't let this be a distraction to you. All right, NNDM up 3+%, but trading 211,000 shares. So I just wanted to check in with this, but I guess since the after hours, not a whole lot happening this morning in pre-market. You know what? I'm going to just check news on this stock. This stock we've done pretty well on in the past. A familiar name here, NNDM. All right, so news came out in the after hours yesterday about this stock trading higher after the company announced a collaboration with, I guess, some institute to develop 3D printing systems. Sounds good. Would like to see a lot more here in pre-market before we become, more interested in this trade. Again, good sideless stock at least. I'll write it down on the side. NNDM. All right, let's jump over to the loser side here. The one that really caught my eye at first, but I'm actually looking on Bookmap. It looks very funky looking Bookmap, almost like algo driven. But the Cody stock here down big. I will jump back to Benzinga Pro briefly just to check the news on this stock as to why it's down 11+%. All right, so it looks like actually. Thought it would have been worse news, but Cody shares trading lower just after the company announced pricing of a secondary offering of Class A common stock. So they didn't list the price per share on that common stock, but obviously it dropped off this morning. Listen, I'll put it on our list. It's shortable. It's at the lows down big this morning and good liquidity. So why not? But I'm more interested in the BBIG trade first. I'm more interested in the Clove stock first, the AEI first, I think perhaps. And then I'll jump to this Cody and look for the short after the market opens. All right. But I'll tell you, I think that's pretty much all I wrote down on the loser side, at least before I started this meeting. If there's anything that got obliterated as I started here, just let me know. I don't really see anything else. Path pretty expensive here, down big. All right, folks, I'll tell you what, we got Wednesday today. So coming up this afternoon, I'll talk all about Bitcoin. I'll talk about the crash that we had yesterday. But I want to mention this now because I always like to be as early to the punch with this as possible for any of my crypto followers. I told you folks that I'm done accumulating. Well, I thought I was. I ended up buying $1,000 worth last night at like 3 a.m. I'll talk more about that, but I got in below 45,000. So pretty happy. And the reason why I got in was basically based off of the advice that I gave all of us here in the afternoon meetings over the last 2 weeks. I just kind of thought about that and said, let's go for it. What can go wrong, really, right? So we'll talk more about Bitcoin and crypto coming up in the afternoon meeting later on today. All right, from Norman, he says the ANY trade's moving up. Yeah, it is. Nice spike on this stock. And, hey, maybe this could be the beginning of a huge run on this trade like we caught yesterday afternoon on the BBIG, right? So easily enough right now, I don't mind putting the ANY back on the main list here. All right, good call. BBIG broke 1140. Yes, it did. New high of the day so far in BBIG. Not a new all-time high. I just like to specify that because the all-time high was back from last week off 1190. But obviously, really good position so far, and perhaps it can make that push really early on once the market opens up. From Lynette Hutt, HUT. 283,000 shares, so it seems like it's trading some volume this morning, but otherwise, I mean, more on the side list. If you've done really well on this stock over the last couple of days, Lynette, and you got to be the one to answer that yourself. If that's the case, then put it on your list. It doesn't hurt. But if not, though, then I'd rather you start off with the stocks that we already put on the main list so far. LCID made a pop earlier. Yeah, it did. It did. Came back down though. I mean, hey, the time you spent watching LCID move up without you in it, you could have been in the BBIG trade that was already on the pre-market watch list, right? That's why we always say, folks, once the list is put out, just start with the list. Start with the list and then see what happens afterwards. Maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes once the pre-market opens up or once the market opens up for you here at 9:30 Eastern time. All right? I think that's pretty much all I got, though. I don't see anything else on Facebook or YouTube Live. Maybe it's YouTube and Facebook Live. Either way, I'll never get that right. But I appreciate all of us on social media sticking with me here today and this morning, at least from yesterday as well. Fausto will be rightfully back in the saddle come tomorrow morning. He'll be doing the morning meeting as usual. But you got me at least for the day and coming up for the afternoon. If you folks have any questions, at least that you would like to ask me, feel more than free to do so. I'm talking to all of us on social media first because all of us inside the trading room, hey, I'm going nowhere here, right? So you're going to be able to have the chance to talk to me coming up. But hey, feel more than free to send over a quick email right to my email address, josh@ctutrading.com. I had a couple come in last night just regarding crypto, so I already got back to those already. But again, we'll talk more about Bitcoin later. All right, folks. But aside from that, though, hey, we got about 12, 13 minutes before the market opens up. I did good on time. I want to make sure that our students are prepped and ready here for this morning. I look forward to it, folks. I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.